Separate the real from the fake. See, we got to get back to love. If we get back to love, then that's when we're going to get back to us.
It seems like it's never enough. And what do you say when you're...
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of People Empowerment, where we would strive to change the conditions in our community. Today's guest is once again mayoral candidate Sergio Rodriguez, who's running for mayor.
Thanks for having me.
I asked Sergio to come back in and told him that he could absolutely come back in all the way up until the election and speak about what he wanted to talk about what he believed in. I also have extended a continuing extension to Mayor Brown and hoping that he would come on the show and have a conversation with me and with the people. And we still look forward to Mr. Brown hopefully coming on before the mayoral campaign on, the actual test, the confrontation, the battle is on November 5th. So we will hope that the mayor would come in until then, but until then, if I only got one side of the story, I'm gonna tell the side of the story, Sergio.
Nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that. How you feel today, sir?
I'm feeling great. I'm very excited. We have 20 days to election day, so we're out there on the streets every single day, and the response we're getting from the community is tremendous. People are energized, they want change, they want to see a difference, and they're responding with what we have to say. Well,
that's incredible, and we're gonna dissect that. We're gonna break it down and really get into the specifics of what you're saying. But I'd have the people to know that today's show is going to be, the basics of today's show is going to be about jobs. It's going to be about jobs and about paid job training, which is so important to me. But the main thing is about jobs, and we've been going around the city looking at different things. And so we wanted to really focus today on jobs and on the Jobs March, the March for Jobs that's taking place October 29th, 2 p.m., Lafayette Square, Main and Court, where we will gather, we will rally, and then we will march from there right to City Hall, hopefully even surrounding City Hall arm in arm, and demanding that the mayor come out and have a conversation with us and give us some concrete facts about jobs and what he's going to do about paid job training, about the fact that it's raining right now in the city of Buffalo, and we do have a rainy day fund. So, you know, Sergio, I mean, look, the bottom line is, you know, I absolutely believe in my heart that the mayor is a good guy, okay? Absolutely. You know what I mean? He has done an incredible job for the city. You know what I mean? As far as it goes, all this infrastructural work that's going on, I commend him for that. But my problem with him, and it continues to be, that I don't see more people working on these job sites that look like me. That I don't see more people on these job sites that look like you. That I don't see more people on these job sites that look like women. You see what I mean? And so those are the three problems that I got. So how can a city blow up economically, infrastructurally, new word if you might say, but yet the people in the city still suffer? We still have, are we the 11th poorest city, is it, or the third?
We're the third poorest city and the 11th most violent city
11th most violent. So I don't understand that. So as I was, what happened was, let me just break it down slowly. You know, today is Wednesday, and it's October 16th. Yesterday, the Governor Cuomo, was here at the city, and he was here for a groundbreaking on the new facility, UB facility over at Main and High.
That's right.
Okay? I happened to be there and be able to partake in the festivities. And I was there personally when the governor and the mayor and the senators, and they talked about the project was a $375 million project, which I thought was very impressive, okay, with all the other work that's going on there. But now, there were certain words that the governor said that affected me a certain way, because what the governor said clearly was, he said that this is a great project, it's something great coming to Buffalo, and it's going to bring jobs here. It's going to bring construction jobs, and then afterwards it's going to bring inside jobs, okay? Now, when he said construction jobs, it kind of touched me, because I'm thinking, well, if it's got anything to do with like the construction that's going on outside, because right across the street, from the site at Main and High, there's another site at Main and High where they're building, I believe, the new Children's Hospital.
Yes.
And behind that, you know, the work that's going on with the Roswell Park and other things, it just buildings going up. And as I went over across the street and as I looked down to the workers, to see the workers, again, you know, I just felt terrible inside, and I felt somewhat disparaged because I see so many workers, I see so many people out there, and these guys that you see out here, even though it was just as close as I could get because I had to stay behind the fence, but as you know, these workers are 99% European. They're 99% white. And that's got nothing to the fact that I don't have anything against white people. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against my white brothers. But, you know, this job site, for example, this is right across the street from where they had the groundbreaking. Now, if I can look in there and I can see 40, 50 workers and only see one black and no Hispanic, no Latinos, you know, how should I feel? And this
no
site,
women.
another angle of this site, and you look down into this site, and I mean, you know, you can only see so much from the pictures and as close as we could get. But if you're standing right there and you can look down in there and you see all the people down there working and you see that they're all European, you know what I mean? And it just hurts me because in a city, there's 49% black and Hispanic. Again, we are not represented there. And I'm gonna tell you about some other places, but what do you have to say about this?
Well, you know what, Nate, you bring an interesting point, right? Because there's the impression that somehow, because we see some development downtown with the buildings, that the city, in fact, is benefiting from that. Now, here's the major fundamental flaw with that thinking. It implies that the people that are working there and the people that are actually not only in the construction field, but those that will eventually work there as doctors, as executives and nurses, are people that are from the city. And nothing can be further from the truth. As you pointed out in those pictures you took there, we don't see representation of women and minorities at these construction sites. That's problematic because 49% of the population in the city is Hispanic and black.
It is.
So if we're not giving our city residents an opportunity to get employed, then it matters very little what type of buildings are going up, because the fact is we have the highest unemployment rate in the city in over 20 years. I mean, the highest in 20 years. Now, what's ironic about that is that when you look outside of the city, the Buffalo-Niagara region, it has the lowest unemployment rate in 5 years. So while the region is growing, it's actually gaining more jobs, the city itself hasn't seen a worse time for jobs in over 20 years. And that's a very, very big problem, which we must address.
And you see, Sergio, the thing about it that disheartens me is because I was so excited when I went down there and you see all the work and you see it's going on, you see the city being rebuilt. And so it's very exciting. But then you turn around and you look in depth at what's going on. And when you don't see people that look like me, people that look like you, women, on these job sites, then it just destroys that whole feeling. Yeah, Buffalo's on the move, but are the citizens on the move?
Citizens are not on the move. I mean, all you have to do is look at the morning rush. When you look at the morning rush, everyone's coming inbound from the suburbs. So these jobs are given to individuals that don't live in the city of Buffalo. And that is the major problem that we're dealing with. So when we see opportunities where we can get our own city residents, women, minorities, and other classes to benefit from this economic development, we must go after it. And that's where I see the problem with the current administration. The current administration has remained very complacent about this issue. While the federal government, the state government, and even city guidelines stipulate that you must hire a 25% of women and minorities in the construction field. We don't see that being reflected. And then we complain.
Actually, it's 25% minorities and 5% more women.
Okay, so that's for a
actually
total
it's
of
30%.
Well, and you know, that's interesting because we don't see that representation and we don't take advantage of those opportunities that are there. And then the next time there's a shooting on the east side or the west side, we blame the people. But in fact, the best way to stop a bullet is with a job. So you get people employed, and then crime goes down. But if we're not giving our own people an opportunity to seek gainful employment, then we cannot complain the next time there's a shooting on a street corner, because we're not giving them an opportunity.
Now, just like you said, folks, just like Sergio said, nothing stops a bullet
Like a job.
like a job. I mean, it's so very simple. You know what I mean? That nothing stops a bullet like a job. I mean, it's so very, very basic and very, very simple. The premise is, if these young people are out working and then getting their rest, why would they be on the streets robbing, shooting, killing, selling drugs?
They wouldn't. There's always going to be crime, but we don't need to be the 11th most violent city in America. There's no need for us to be ranking so high. The other issue is that look at the ECC expansion. There's a $30 million expansion. So instead of expanding in the city campus, they choose to expand their programs and their physical structure into the North Campus. So now you are removing an opportunity for city students, which make up nearly half of the ECC student population. You're removing those opportunities, making it harder for them to seek their education, and you're expanding into the suburbs. Again, you know, we're failing city residents when we do these type of things, because now we're asking them to go all the way to the North Campus in Amherst, when they can be right here in the city of Buffalo, seeking their degrees in nursing and other important fields that are developing downtown.
Okay. Now, have you talked to anybody from ECC for a fact? Like, I believe Jack Quinn is the president. Have you had a conversation with him about this transition?
Well, I'm not privy to those negotiations. I ran into Mr. Quinn. I know that he's very aware where I stand on this issue. At the last debate, I was asked where I stood on this, and I mentioned, look, there's no reason that there's no way we can justify that somehow the expansion into the ECC should be in the North Campus. So it should be in the city campus. So he knows where I stand on this issue. However, the administration has remained relatively silent on this issue, and they haven't really gone out there and forced the issue. Why is it that we're spending $30 million to expand into the North Campus when we can do it right there in the city?
So in other words, the city is spending $30 million to expand the campus, but they're expanding it in the suburbs instead of right in the city? Are you kidding me?
There's $30 million that has been set
State
aside. That's state funds, county funds, and city funds.
Okay.
Remember, 48% of the ECC student population is from the city. So we're the
City
ones that are
residents.
making up the major contribution when it comes to ECC. So what we're doing is we're diverting all of these students and funneling them into Amherst. Now, these are students that are typically disadvantaged. They come from low-income homes, don't have transportation, and we're asking them to find their way all the way up to Amherst. So what we need to do is funnel them back into the city, not into the suburbs.
You know, you got a great point, and that absolutely makes sense. Now, again, I'd like for you, my producer, would you please throw those pictures back up for a moment of the construction sites going on again, so I could touch a point. Now, I want the people to understand that these sites that we've taken the pictures of here, these are just one site that is at Main and High.
Oh, yes.
Okay, but I actually went and took other pictures, but unfortunately, my camera wouldn't focus good enough. I couldn't really get some good shots. But I got to tell you, just like this construction is going on here, I went down to the Harbor Center, and that's down by the Buffalo News. Now, the old Donovan building has been converted into the Philip Lytle building. The construction there is incredible. The building's incredible. Right across the street from it, you got the Harbor building where they're bringing all that up, right? And it's all being built up. Now, I went there and I took pictures there, and the site is incredible. I was just overwhelmed because the site is incredible. And I saw literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of workers, you guys, hundreds and hundreds of workers. And out of those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of workers, matter of fact, they had a sign that said it was 1,500 people there. I saw 2 black workers and I didn't see any other minorities. Now, maybe if I looked in deeper, I would have saw some more, but I mean, it just doesn't make sense, and it hurts me. I get so happy when I look at all the construction and the building of the city, and then I get so sad when I look at all the people working and they don't look like me. So listen,
it's a mirage.
Yeah, so we're going to take a break right quick to get you some information, and then we'll be right back. So just stay there, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. We'll be right back after this little break.
Folks, why won't we go to the doctor? My uncle called, speech all slurred, complaining his arms numb. He called everyone. He even called my daughter Tiara, because, you know, she's got a year of nursing. Everyone thinks he needs to go to the doctor, including me. So he said, well, will you take me? I'm like, I'm on the road. He goes, I'll wait. Stroke's no joke. If you or someone you love have symptoms of stroke, don't wait. It may be too late. Dial 911. Time loss is brain loss.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Now we're back. Just experiencing a few little technical difficulties. We're going to work them out. So how are you guys back? I'm Nate Boyd, and I'm back here with Sergio Rodriguez, and we're going to continue our conversation.
Absolutely.
About jobs. Again, like I was saying, Sergio, why this jobs march is so important is because I went around, like I said, and I looked at the different sites, and it's just incredible the magnitude of work. That's let alone what's going on down at Canal Center. Just a few spots I've already mentioned. The $80 million hotel and restaurant that's going up on Elmwood and Delaware and Chippewa. So, you know, there's so much going on in the city, and I believe that city residents need to be a part of it. And see, this is the sad thing. Not just don't I see minorities, but how many city workers, how many city residents are actually there working, you know? I saw one that I happen to know. I finally saw a person that I happen to know. One person that was working out there from the city, but most of the guys, I've actually talked to them. And what they tell me is they're from Cheektowaga, and they're from Lancaster, and they're from Hamburg, and even further away. Some are as far as Ohio, you know, that are here and are doing these jobs. So, what do you think about that?
Well, I think there's a failure in leadership when it comes to this issue, because when we see development happening in our city, then it only makes sense that our city residents are benefiting from this. But we have jobs being created, except that it's not jobs for city residents. I believe that the administration has a responsibility to talk with the developers to ensure that federal guidelines to employ women and minorities in the construction field is enforced. But we don't see that. And that truly is one of the greatest challenges that we face, because we're not getting our own city residents an opportunity to get employed.
Mm-hmm. Now, another reason why this jobs march is so important, because now is the time of the mayoral contest. The mayor's election is very soon, okay? And so we believe here at People Empowerment that the time to put the pressure on the mayor, on the city to act is now. Now, this is so important, Sergio, and this is something that the people need to know. It's something I need to tell you specifically. It does not matter whether the mayor wins again or whether Sergio wins, when it comes to jobs for our people, when it comes to the citizens of this community being treated fairly and being treated right. Now, you got to understand this. So this is why it's so important for the people to come out for the marching force, to march together, just like in the days of Martin Luther King. We need to come out and we need to march together. We need to take a stand, because it doesn't matter who's in office. If Sergio Rodriguez was in office tomorrow and we still had the problems that we have, then I would be marching right to your steps, right to your front door, and telling you that enough is enough. It wouldn't matter. So that's what I need the people to understand, and understand my passion for this cause. My passion, because once we march on the city and we give the mayor our demands, and if the mayor will not listen to us, if the city will not listen to us, then we have an opportunity for change. It is what it is. So we have to use you and the advent of you to press this man into action. And if he won't act, then the only other recourse that we have is to replace him, whether we like him or not, whether we keep it real, whether we like his smile, whether we like his style, whether we like what he's doing for the city. It doesn't matter, Sergio. What matters is what he's willing to do for the people who elected him.
Right, and there's too much complacency going on, Nate. The fact is that over the past 8 years since the current administration was put into office, we've lost over 10,000 jobs, meaning our workforce went from 114,000 residents in the city who worked to 104,000. So we have 10,000 fewer people working and living in the city. So when I see the administration talk about progress, and then I look at the situation in the city, the fact that we're the third poorest city in America, that kids are now graduating from high school, we're creating a direct-to-jail pipeline, we have the highest unemployment rate in 20 years, and then the administration has the audacity to tell us that somehow this is progress. We don't see our own people being employed. We need to ensure that city residents are benefiting from any type of development and job growth in the city of Buffalo. We need to take it back to the people, just like you said.
Absolutely. Now, you know, a few months back, well, actually last year, when they were having the congressional elections, and I had Congressman Brian Higgins on, and I had Mike Madigan on the show. And we talked about things like the Davis-Bacon Act. And Mike Madigan pointed out that the Davis-Bacon Act, the way it's drawn up, it's hurting minorities. It's preventing us from work. And basically, that what he was saying with the problem with contractors hiring minorities is because they feel slighted. Because if you hire a untrained minority, unskilled, and you have to bring him in to the labor force, then the skilled laborers, the skilled other people, he said that puts a slight on them because they got this person getting paid the same thing as they're getting, but they don't know as much as them, and so they feel slighted as if they throws the whole thing off. The contractors feel as though they can't get the work done as fast because they've got these laborers that don't know as much as these other people, and so that somehow that's going to hinder the process, and the number one goal is money. So they set aside. So in effect, they set aside what's the good of the people for what's good for the contractor, getting the job done the fastest, making the most money, making sure that the other workers who have been there aren't upset that these other new people come in and get paid the same amount of money as they do. And I think it's hogwash.
Well, you know what, Nate, you pointed something out that's very interesting, which what I believe is a myth. There's this myth out there being created that somehow there are untrained and uncertified minorities out there that cannot enter the workforce in the construction field. I disagree with that, mainly because we do have an organization in the city of Buffalo that trains and certifies women and minorities to work in the construction field. The name of the place is called the Outsource Center, and they're right there on Fillmore Avenue on the east side of Buffalo. And what Mr. Gaskin and the Outsource Center do is they hire and train women and minorities to work in the construction field. And guess what? When he goes to these developers and he asks them to employ these individuals who are trained and certified, they don't have a job for them. And so this is simply a myth. When you have the trained women and minorities, they don't want to give you the job. So please, you know, what I ask is people to keep an open mind, to realize that this is simply a myth being created, that somehow there aren't capable and trained women and trained and capable minorities that are willing to go out there and work in this field. It's not true. It's a myth.
Well, you know, I know it's not true. And plus, when you go to the fact of being a skilled labor, let me tell you, in my past, in the past, I've worked for several different construction companies. And every one I worked on, I walked onto the job site, said, I need a job, I'm the right man, and they gave me the job on the spot. Within a week's time, each episode, I always became a lead man. Learned it quickly. You see what I mean? You got to remember, minorities, specifically African Americans, they built America. Okay? When they brought to America, they built America. They weren't trained, skilled laborers in building houses, maybe in building huts, you know what I mean, in canoes, but not in building houses and infrastructure. Yet Africans America built the infrastructure of this country. For God's sake, they built the Capitol, they built the White House. Now all of a sudden, they would have us believe that all of a sudden African Americans don't know how to do construction, that African Americans don't know how to build. I mean, it doesn't make sense. So now all of a sudden that we're in the 2000s, Now we're incapable. But when America was first built, it was fine for us to be there. Again, it isn't fair.
Oh yes, it just goes back to this myth that somehow you can't train certain people to work in the construction field. I mean, think about that. Anyone is trainable to work in any job. And so for us to say or insinuate, the development community, to insinuate that somehow an entire demographic, when it comes to women and minorities, are not capable to learn the job, it's insulting, to say the least.
It absolutely is, Sergio. And that's why, again, I would beg the people, I would beg the community, I would say to you, now is our opportunity. You need to be at this job march. We need to come together and we need to march together for jobs. We need to put the powers that be on notice. And Sergio, if they will not come out, if they will not meet our demands, if they will not put something in paper, in writing, say, indeed, it's a rainy day fund, we're going to take some of this rainy day money and we're going to use it to get you guys ready to be qualified up to their standards to go into these jobs, these infrastructure jobs. And if he won't do that, if the administration won't do that, then the next march needs to be in the job sites. The next march needs to be downtown on Washington Street in front of the Buffalo News, shutting down that job site for Philip Lydell, shutting down that job site, Webster Block Project, shutting down that job site they're doing right next to HSBC. What we need to do is the people, this needs to be the first start of many marches where the people come out and surround the place and say enough is enough. Either you're going to give us jobs or you're not going to be able to work too. So everybody out there that doesn't have a job, everybody out there that needs a job needs to be a part of this, Sergio. I mean, it's so important to me. And the people need to understand that they have a choice, that you have a choice. The people need to understand that if the administration and the powers that be will not listen to us, will not affect change, will not help the people, then we have to choose somebody else. And right now, the only other person to choose is you. You have stepped to the forefront. You have said, so what, it's a battle between David and Goliath. I'd take David's spot anytime, and me being a religious man, I would do the same thing. You see, I know that you're being underestimated. I know that you're being underestimated. I know that the powers that be think that they've got it all in a nutshell and they don't have to worry. But I've also been out in the streets and I've heard the people, excuse my passion, but I've heard the people talk about you. I've heard the people talk about your name and what you might do. And I've heard the people talk about their discouragement with our mayor, okay, with their discouraged, excited about what he's doing economically for the region, but discouraged when it comes to them and their households. Can you understand that, Sergio?
Oh, absolutely. You nailed it on the head. You know, there's activity happening, but it's not benefiting any of the city residents. So we're poorer than we've ever been. We're less employed. And the way people look at it, you know what? There's some waterfront development, but we're not looking for a waterfront mayor. We're looking for a mayor who's for every front, every part of the city, who's not going to say, I'm going to focus on just this one part of the city that's ultimately benefiting people that live outside of the city anyhow. And at the same time, you go to any parts of the east side and the west side of Buffalo, you see broken homes, shut down properties, vacant properties. You see sidewalks that are destroyed and roads that are destroyed. You see a lot of hopelessness. So we cannot relate as a people to the economic activity that we see at the waterfront. It needs to come back to us.
That's it. That's absolutely correct. Ladies and gentlemen, I would say to you that we are in the very last minutes of the show. It always flies by quick. But I want you to understand about the March for Jobs. I want you to understand that this is so important. The March for Jobs on whoever is the mayor. It's so important that the people stand up and start to speak out, because as long as our voices are quiet, nothing's going to happen. This isn't about coming out doing physical fighting. This is about standing up with your voice and saying, give us our fair share of the work. Give us our fair share of the labor. Give us a good education for our kids. Treat us right. So until the next episode of People Empowerment, I will tell you, pay attention, pay attention, pay attention.